Hi folks, so I just wanted to make up I suppose a re-recording essentially of the training we did today. I suppose for the people who were at the training to look back on, just to recap some of the key points. And for those of you who maybe tried to join by Meet but weren't able to, my apologies, there was a technical error at my end. I think two aspects. One, I had to close the Chrome browser at some point in order to get the drawing tools to come back on Screencastify, which led to me also inadvertently closing the Meet, which I should have moved to a different tab. And secondly, I suspect that I'd actually forgotten to switch my microphone on, which is the rookiest of rookie mistakes. But anyway, hopefully this will give you an overview of what would have been covered if you couldn't make it or if you weren't able to make sense of the Meet without any sound. So the CLPL was meant to cover a range of things, from how to add Screencastify to your Chrome web browser, what you can record, main menu options and settings, how you actually would record and choose what to record, tools that you can use while recording, trimming, saving, sharing recordings, so on. There's a range of different stuff we'll cover. So I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. To start with, adding Screencastify to Chrome is relatively straightforward. Screencastify is an extension, which is like an app that works in the Chrome web browser. So if you're using a computer with the Chrome web browser, this icon down here, or if you're using a Chromebook, a laptop with the Chrome web browser, doesn't really matter. As long as you're using the Chrome web browser, you can use Screencastify. To add it, simply go online, search Screencastify, and if you go to the website, up at the top right-hand corner, you'll see it'll say install or add to Chrome or something here, where mine already says already installed. The alternative link that you might find is if you search for Screencastify, you would find on the Chrome Web Store also, which is where all of the extensions exist, or at least where you can download them from. So in the same place again, where it says remove from Chrome here, yours would have an option for add to Chrome. After you click that, you'll probably find that up in this top area, a little pop-up or two will appear asking for permission to use your microphone, your camera, record your screen, etc. And when that appears, you need to make sure that you accept it, because if you don't, Screencastify is unable to work. Having done that, you should find the Screencastify icon, which is this symbol here, this little arrow with the camera in it, should appear in your little bar here, which has all of your different extensions, shortcuts, all your little icons. Because this bar is only so long, if you have a lot of other extensions already installed, it may be that it doesn't appear here because there's not enough space. To find it, you simply click on the little jigsaw icon here, and if you scroll down, you can see all of your different extensions. You'll be able to find Screencastify, and when you find it, you can click the wee pin icon, which will pin it up onto your list here, so it's easy to access. So that's how you'd add it. In terms of what you can record, well, the answer is pretty much whatever you want, as long as it's on your actual computer screen. So while you could record a presentation or a PowerPoint like this, other things you might be able to record would be, for example, using a webcam to record a demonstration, as long as the demonstration is being played on your screen using your webcam. So it's quite versatile. It doesn't have to just be your slideshow. The other advantage is that if you were going to record something like a physical demonstration of any kind using a webcam or a camera of some sort, ordinarily you would record that separately, then you'd have to add that into your content or add it as a separate thing. So if you were doing a lesson where you had a slideshow and then you were going to give a physical demonstration, you could start your Screencastify recording your slideshow, talk through whatever you need to talk through, then on your screen, open up your webcam. So for example, on my computer here, there's various different ways you might go about it, but if I search here and go to camera, there's a webcam plugged into the camera at the moment. So although Screencastify would be recording, well, how do I explain this? Screencastify would have been recording the slideshow while I was talking about that. As long as this is what's on my screen, Screencastify is now recording it. And so I could use this to point at something on my desk or whatever I might happen to be doing. So it's pretty versatile. You can use it to record quite a lot of things, and the advantage is that it just puts everything all in one place. So rather than having a separate video and a slideshow recording and having to put them together, you could potentially just record it all at once while you were teaching a lesson, rather than having to record a lesson for people who are maybe working from home. Now, the main menu options, I'll just go a quick run through. So when you click on the Screencastify icon, this is what will open up. I suppose we'll start at the top and work our way down. The three options here allow you to choose what it will record. The first option is a browser tab, and if we click on that and click record, it will just record this individual browser tab here that I have open. If I go and look at these ones, they shouldn't appear in my recording. So if you were just going to record a single Google slideshow, you'll see as it's playing that back, it's only showing that slide that I had open, or that tab that I had open. It's not playing any of the content when I flicked between my tabs. That's really all that does. The other options we might have, just quickly go to this again, are desktop, which I use most of the time. And when you click on record desktop, it gives you an option to record either the entire screen or a specific application window. And the specific application window would allow you to choose, for example, if you were showing somebody how to use something on Photoshop, you could choose that it would only record the Photoshop web application window. Maybe main advantage would be if you had Seamless or you had your emails open somewhere else and you didn't want there to be any accidental chance that it could record anything other than that one application window. The downside is if you're switching between different things, like showing a slideshow and talking through part of it, and then showing how to do something in Photoshop or Autodesk or whatever other software you're using, it wouldn't work because it would only be recording a single application window. So I usually stick with entire screen, but I usually make sure I've closed off Seamless, or at least changed it to home menu, and I always make sure that I've got my emails closed. I'll not do a recording just there at this stage because I want to show you the last option, which is webcam only. And so when we record webcam only, the only difference is that this time it's just going to record my webcam. Now, I don't want it to do that, but same principle as before. You could use that if you wanted to record a demonstration rather than recording something on your screen. It might just be a quicker way of creating the recording and saving it. You'll hopefully see later in the video that the way that Screencastify saves and shares your videos is quite streamlined, so it might be a lot quicker than manually recording a video and then having to upload it. So I'll close these off again and we'll just come back to the next couple of things in the menu. So that's your options of what you record. You also need to make sure that if you want to record sound, your microphone is switched on. So that's this little slider here. If that's not on, it won't hear anything. And you can choose which microphone by clicking the drop down. So if there was different microphones, like say you were using your laptop and there's a built-in microphone, but you also wanted to use a desk microphone because you found the sound quality is better, you can use that wee drop down to select which one. And likewise, if you're going to use a camera, if we put it on desktop here, you can see we've got embed webcam, and that will basically use any webcam that you have built into either your laptop or plugged into your computer, and it will embed it down at the bottom right of your screen. So I'll leave that enabled just now, just so that when I do the demonstration, you can see it, but I generally don't keep that active. Below that, you've got a couple of other options. The first is for countdown. When you start recording, that will give you a countdown to when it starts recording, so you can compose yourself. You can change the duration of that countdown. And also you have drawing tools, which you can see down at the bottom here. So we'd want usually to show those drawing tools. Now, system audio is worth being aware of, because system audio means it will also record sounds created by the computer. It records the sound from your microphone separately from the sound recorded or the sound produced by your computer. So if you're doing something on a computer that makes sounds, using a website, for example, that plays audio, or watching a video clip as part of the lesson, and you want that to be recorded, it's important that you enable system audio so that it will record that. Not really much more to say about that. Up at the top here, there are some options in this settings menu, which I'm not going to get into. If you're the kind of person who'd be changing these settings, you probably know what they mean already. And if you're going to go and have a wee look in here, you'll also find some other options. The main ones in here that I'm going to point out are, just to make you aware, you can choose where videos are saved. By default, they go to your Google Drive. You could also choose to have them saved on your local drive, which means on your device. It's your preference, but I think Google Drive makes far more sense. It's much quicker. It's not going to clog up your device with other files that you maybe don't want to have on it. It makes it easier to share things and so on. There are some notifications options, which I'll not go into. You can use your common sense to decide what you want there. And in your keyboard shortcuts, there are two different types. You have recording shortcuts in here, which if you scroll down to find your Screencastify ones, tells you the different shortcuts that you can use to activate and control how Screencastify works. These recording shortcuts will only work, in my experience, when you're recording a tab in the Chrome browser. So if you then go and start recording something in a different program like Autodesk or Photoshop, they no longer function because the shortcuts only work within Chrome. I haven't actually tried changing this to global and trying it. It may be that when you do that, it will work elsewhere, but you can let me know if you try that and it does. There are some other shortcuts which are for your drawing tools. So while you're recording, if you make use of the drawing tools quite regularly, it's maybe worth keeping a note of these different shortcuts so that you can quickly activate and use the tools rather than having to go down and click on them. So those are our main options that you're likely to engage with. Do feel free to have a wee scan through here. The other stuff I don't think you're likely to need to change. So I'll just leave it at that. The other thing to consider is that in your menu here, you'll see you've got My Recordings. That's where you go to find all of your recordings. They're all kept catalogued in there. Some other stuff down here, but we're going to come to the editor later on. So I'll deal with that at that point. And you can also use Switch Account if you're using different Google accounts on the same device. So say you were working from home and you're using a browser which is signed in with a personal Google account, you might make use of that. Now, moving on to actually recording. So we've covered how to add it, what you could record, and a tour of the main menu. The things that we might want to record, we've already covered, so I guess we'll just dig into how you actually do recording. So we click the icon, click record, and then you'll see because I've enabled webcam, I'm showing up down at the bottom there. If I didn't want to be there, I could click the X to get rid of that, and I can click your entire screen to select the entire screen. I'm not going to record an application window here. When I hit share, you'll find that you get your countdown, and you should also find you've got a range of tools down in the bottom left-hand side here. And this slightly frustrating bar that pops up, you'll also see I've got one because I'm recording this on Meet, because I can't record Screencastify with Screencastify. So I usually just tuck these out of the way at the bottom so that they don't get in the way. But you can hide them. I'll not go into why, but it can be a bit of a pain if you need to stop the recording and you need to find that little icon. So over here, let's just have a quick look at the drawing tools. You'll actually see at the top here, it's currently recording. I can see it's currently recording because there's a little red dot there. And the first icon on this list is pause. And if I press pause, if you look up here, you'll notice that icon changes slightly, shows that it's paused the recording. That allows me to pause midway through recording. So if I was recording a lesson live while I was teaching it, I could record my delivery to the pupils, pause it when the pupil started a task so that I wasn't recording loads of dead space or background conversation. And then I could restart the recording next time I needed to answer an important question or deliver more content or give more instructions. So it allows you to kind of stop and start your recording as you go. It's also quite handy if you're recording a lesson and you just realize you can't remember what you were going to say next, or you need to figure something out before you move on. It's quite a handy thing to remember because it saves you creating big long pauses and stops and fumbles, or having to go back and edit the video to remove those later, which is more time consuming. So that's what pause is for, fairly self-evident, I think. When you pause it, you'll also get some other options, which are end recording. That stops the recording and just goes and saves it. And also restart recording, which basically doesn't do anything. It just takes you back to the start. Well, doesn't do anything is not the right way to put that. It doesn't stop and save the recording at the current point. It simply kind of wipes it out and then takes you back to the beginning as though you were starting afresh. So that if you kind of fumble the start of your presentation or your recording, that can be quite handy. So assuming we're playing a recording, we have a couple of options here for the cursor. So if we use the mouse pointer, we can use focus mode, which allows me to, well, fairly self-evidently highlight a particular area. We then have hide cursor when not in movement or not in motion. That works. Hold on, I'll just turn that on. So when you click that on, you'll see that the cursor disappears when we stop moving it. And we should, I'll just turn these off so we can see it. We should also have highlight clicks. And what highlight clicks does is it just creates that little red flash around anywhere I click. And that's quite good for giving instructions on how to do something online or on how to use a particular piece of software, because it allows people to see where you're clicking and what you're clicking on. So those are your mouse tools. You then have some annotation tools. So you've got this drawing tool that you can use. So you can draw on top of the screen there. The thing to be aware of, though, is that if you then move to a different slide, you'll find that that stays in the same place. Okay, so it's kind of locked to that tab. It won't appear in other tabs, but it is locked to the same place. So if you were doing a presentation and you annotate on top of this tab, and then you move on to your next one, it's not ideal because it's still there. So just bear in mind that after you have done some annotation, you'll probably need to erase it by using the wipe screen button. That ultimately shouldn't really matter because you are recording it anyway. So if somebody wanted to see that annotation, they'd just be able to go back in the recording and look at it. So you've got your eraser there, which can be used either to erase individual little parts or alternatively, as you see, to erase the whole thing. And then there's a little X here to hide tools, which I would avoid pressing because when you hide them, it's not very easy to get them back. So those are our drawing tools. The next thing that we're going to look at is what we do when we're finished recording. So at the moment, this recording is still ongoing while I've been talking to you and recording this CLPL. It's been recording me later on in the background. And I'm going to just show you how you could stop a recording. You can either click pause and then stop there. You could use a shortcut if you remember it. You can click on the icon up here. So if you have hidden your drawing tools, you'll see that you've got the options there to stop it. And you could, if you've got yourself in a bit of a fluster and you can't remember anything else, you could also actually look down at the bottom for those little bars that I kind of hid away earlier on. It doesn't really matter how you stop it, the same thing happens. So if we stop it here, what we'll see is it opens up Screencastify in a new tab, and it puts up a kind of a preview of my recording. Now, incidentally, you'll see that my down in the bottom right hand side, my webcam was still recording me, even though I'd hit X on that at the start of the recording. And that's because although I'd hit X, all I was doing by hitting X on the webcam was just removing it from my screen. Within Screencastify, the option for the webcam was still enabled. So it really just means that if you want to get rid of or you want to not have the webcam active, you need to actually make sure that you've done that within the option settings for Screencastify in here and turned off embed webcam, because even if you hit the wee X when it appears at the start, you will find that it will still record the webcam, you just won't see it. So we've finished our recording. It's opened up in this view. The first thing you would always want to do is name your file. So I'll just call this CLPL demo. And the reason we want to name the file now is if we do anything else with it, like we download it or export it or so on, we want to make sure it has a sensible file name. It'll also mean that when we go and look in that big list of all of our recordings, it should hopefully be a bit quicker and easier to find. If you do a lot of recording, it's a good idea to come up with a consistent format so that when you are saving your files, you give them a consistent name, like, for example, maybe the day and the month, the year, and then a description of the lesson. And that'll allow you, when you're going back looking for lessons that you maybe recorded the previous year so that you can reuse them in future years, it will hopefully make it a lot easier to find things because they'll all be organized neatly. Another thing that's useful to be able to do is to quickly edit the start and end. So if you found that in your recording, you needed to clip a wee bit off the beginning, you have this trim tool here. And the scissors allow you to trim a little off the beginning or end or both of your recording. And when you're happy that you've chosen the right trim points, you need to remember to hit Save Trim. And when you've done that, it will trim off the bits that you've decided to trim. If you need to remove material from within the video or chop that up and change it, that's a slightly different process where you need to use the editor. Before we get to doing the editing, I'm going to just quickly show you a couple of other things you might want to be aware of. Up at the top here, if we click video details, we get some information here about the duration and all that sort of stuff. We have a trash can here that we can use if it's a video that we don't want anymore, we don't need. We can just get rid of it by clicking that. And then over at the right, we have our options for sharing and downloading. One way you can share is to click Copy Shareable Link, and that will enable link sharing and copy a link to your pasteboard, which if you paste in, should allow somebody to see that video on their web browser. So it should allow them to just search for it. Now, I'm going to go into this web browser here, which is not signed into Google, just so we can check and see that even if you share that with somebody out with Stirling Council, so they're not signed into Google as a Stirling Council teacher, they can still access it. So just be aware if it's anything sensitive. It's unlikely that you would be recording it if it was, but if it's anything sensitive, just be aware that that shareable link will allow that to happen. So that makes it an unlisted link. Unlisted simply means it's on the web, but it's not going to be listed in Google search. So if somebody searched for the video title, they wouldn't ever be able to find it unless you'd literally given them the link or somebody had given them a link. You'll see you can click View on Drive here. That will show you where it's actually saved in your drive. Sorry, it will show you played from Drive. If you click on here, you should be able to then have a wee look there, and that gives you all the options you would have for in Drive, like renaming it on your Google Drive, or choosing which folder it was going to go into or anything like that. Equally, if you just go to your Google Drive folder, so we'll just go to Drive quickly, you will find that within your Google Drive, there will be a folder called Screencastify Recordings. There we go, Screencastify, there we go. And that's where all of the videos are actually saved. Okay, so your video should go in there when it's all done. Some other things that you could do in there. So just to clarify, actually, I should have mentioned that the link that we created, we can choose what degree of privacy it has. So you can edit that if it has to be kept within Stirling Schools, or you want it to be as public as possible. But anyway, if we go down the sharing options, couple that you're likely to use, couple that you're not. You can publish to YouTube, which is kind of a whole other topic in itself. But if you do use YouTube for sharing and recording content, it's very streamlined. You simply click Publish to YouTube, choose who can see it. So you can either make it private, public, or unlisted. This will link to your YouTube channel through your Google account. Make sure you're happy with the title, add a description if you want, hit upload. It spins a wee wheel, and then it says that's it, finished, and it gives you a link to on YouTube. That can be quite handy if you are sharing things with people that are working from home. Say, for example, there was a full lockdown and you needed to do that. Because YouTube is the most compatible thing, anyone with an internet connection will be able to watch something if it's on YouTube. There can be issues with sharing files from Google Drive, where some people, for whatever reason, are unable to access it. So it's, it's a fallback option for making things as shareable as possible. And likewise, I suppose, for sharing things outside of Stirling Council, if you've created content you want to let other people use. You may also use Share to Classroom. If you click that, this wee window will open up, which allows you to choose a class that you want to share to, and an action. So it can either be a video that's attached to an assignment, a question, an announcement, or a material. And when you click go, it will simply open up the classroom window that you would usually have, and you'll see that the video is attached there already. Pupils should, when they go into Classroom and open that, be able to click and play the video. I have occasionally found that there's issues with them being able to play videos that are stored directly on Google Drive. Hasn't really been a huge issue with Screencastify ones, but if you're having issues like that, your other option, slightly further down, try again. Your other option slightly further down is to go to download. There's different ways you can download the video. Just pause that. But I just hit download as the first option. I think it comes up as a WebM file, which is generally pretty compatible with anything. You see that it's downloaded to my wee kind of tray down here of my downloads. So if I went to Classroom, My other way of adding that video to Classroom, which is really quick and easy, and gets around the whole issue of any access restraints because it's stored in your Google Drive. I could simply go in here, whatever I was creating, and then in this wee box where it says add, I would just do file, and I can just drag that and drop it in. And it's really that simple. So if you're doing that regularly, the speed of downloading the video and dragging it into your options or your menu here for creating an assignment is really, 10, 15, 20 seconds max. It's really not a time-consuming process to get it to your pupils. You would then just post that as normal, but I'll just discard it because I don't need to. Now, there are lots of other ways that you can share videos that I'm not really going to dig into. I doubt you're going to send them in emails, or you might want to create QR codes so that people could watch your videos. And you'll see there are other share options. You can plus that, and I'll give you some other ways you can share videos. Again, I think if you're in the mind to do that, you're probably capable of understanding how to figure that out for yourself. So I'll not add it into the video as it's not really that necessary. Likewise, the different formats that you can use to export, you can make a decision yourself about what's most suitable for you. If you know what GIFs are and why you'd use them, you would know why you'd download it. So going back to what we're aiming to cover, that's pretty much covered everything apart from the editor and Screencastify submit. So the other thing that we might do, as I was saying before, apart from trimming a video, is we might actually want to edit it. So if I click this open in editor button, it takes that video and it opens it up in the Screencastify editing software. I'm not certain off the top of my head just what our license for Screencastify covers. And I don't know if it gives us unlimited editing. I think it does, because it does say at the top here, edit unlimited. Because if you don't have the full unlimited version, there's, I think, only so many times you can use the editing software per month. But basically what you'll see is down at the bottom here, I have this reel here that shows me the clip that's been uploaded here. And if I click on it at different points, you can see what's happening in it. More or less the same thing, really. And I've got this zoom thing here that I can use to either zoom into it really close, so I can, I suppose I can parse through areas of it quite a detailed way in terms of like finding the right moment to insert something, or I can zoom this right out, which will let me see the whole clip in one bar. And if you are zoomed in, you can use your mouse scroll wheel to scroll back and forth along that reel. Now I'm going to zoom it right back out so that we can see the whole thing in one place here. And I'm going to point out that you've got a couple of different options here. You'll see you've got handles at either end that would allow you to drag material away and clip it out. So that would allow you, much like the trim tool, to cut stuff off the start and end. But you might actually have a bit in the middle of a video you need to remove, in which case you would start by finding that part of the video. So say it was this area of the video here.
We can use focus mode.
That bit's, I've done something wrong. I can click on the cut button, and you'll see that what it's done is both parts of the video are, well, the whole video is still there, but it's now in two parts. It's been split. And I could then find the end of where it went wrong. So maybe here, and I could cut again. And that's now separated that area where something went wrong that I want to get rid of, and I'm able to just either click the trash can button or press the delete key on the keyboard. Equally, if you create a lesson and then realize there was something really important that should have been in the middle of it that you completely omitted, you can combine more than one video. So if you go to add clip and look in your Google Drive or uploads, and it doesn't have to be Screencastify videos, these can be any videos. So if you have videos that you recorded last year of demonstrations or anything that you want to add into your Screencastifies, you can add them in as well. So I'll just go to my Screencastify videos here. I'll just grab one at random. So say I wanted to add this video in, what I'm doing now by adding it is basically putting it into this timeline here. I probably should have chosen a shorter video because the one I've chosen is quite long. It might take a wee moment or two to load up. We'll just bear with it. In the meantime, while it's loading, I'll maybe just kind of hover over here and point out that there are some other tools that we can use, such as crop and zoom and text we'll come to in a wee moment. So anyway, zooming that right back out, we can now see we've got the 2 bits of the clip that I had before that I'd cropped a section out of. And I've got this other video that I've added in. And if I wanted that video to sit in here somewhere, I can just drag it and drop it in between those other 2 clips. So you can see that I've now got that sandwiched in between those 2 clips in my timeline. And if I play that here, you'll see that that recording will run from here. For the cursor, so if we use the mouse pointer, we can use focus mode, and then it'll jump in as it gets to the next section. Highlight a particular area. We then have hide cursor, which onto the next bit of the video, which allows me to fairly self-evidently highlight a particular corner. So I'm going to stop that just now. Anyway, you can see it's kind of moved on to the next bit of the video. So basically, you can chop and change, remove bits, add bits, do whatever you want, really, in terms of combining videos and removing bits and so on. In terms of annotation, there's some other stuff that you might want to do. You can use the crop tool to clip over an area of the screen. And when you do that, basically what will happen, as I understand it, is that when it's playing that section of the recording, it'll only play a cropped area of it. So everywhere in that video, the whole thing is zoomed in that one area. If there's only a particular part of the video that you needed to zoom in on, you can use the zoom tool here. So if in this video at this point, so I suppose I should explain, the zoom will begin at whatever point in the timeline you have selected down here. So you maybe watch your timeline to find your point where you wanted to zoom in. And say this was the point here, we would then be able to add the zoom tool. You see it's there. So that's the icon down here. So we can add our zooming in on just maybe this area of the screen. That's fine. And we can just try playing that. Should show us the zooming in. Hopefully when it gets to that point, you'll see it zooms in. And then when you click on the actual zoom itself, I just need to move this out of the way. It's a bit more awkward until you might have to zoom in to actually see it a bit better. Now that we've zoomed in, it's easier to see. You can grab the handles and make the zoom in part begin earlier or end later or earlier, whatever you want to do. And you can click on that to edit it. So if you need to make it zoom in more or less, you can just go in and make changes. Much the same way the text tool, you can add text in at a certain point. So you can put your text to overlay on the screen. And again, much the same way, it will appear on your timeline here. You can change how long the text stays there for, when it starts and ends, by just dragging the ends of the wee markers there. They're not things that I use very often. I tend to try and keep videos pretty simple and conversational because I don't really want to get bogged down in spending ages editing them. But if you did make a video where you felt it was really important to zoom in on something that was unclear otherwise, then you know you can do it. Beyond that, really, there's not a huge amount to say about editing. That covers all the stuff that you're likely to need to do. So when you're happy that you finished editing, you can hit export. You have 2 options. You can either export as an MP4, which will save it as a video file, an MP4 video file, and download it onto your actual computer, or you can go to export to Google Drive, and that will save it onto your own Google Drive. Fairly self-explanatory. Now, I'm not going to export it, but just be aware when you do export it, there can be a wee bit of time taken for it to process and save it, so don't expect it to happen instantly. The last thing I was going to cover was just a brief run through Screencastify Submit, which is an aspect of Screencastify that I don't think we have the full license for, but you can still use. And is not readily found just in this wee menu. You have to do a wee bit of hunting around to actually find Screencastify Submit. The easiest way I've found of actually finding it, to be honest, is simply just to search Screencastify Submit, and it will be the first link that you get on Google. It's basically found on the Screencastify website. When you click Get Started for free, this wee icon here, I think that just comes up because we have the free version. If we upgraded, we'd have a slightly different button, but it's not a huge issue. Now you'll see I've got an assignment already open with Screencastify Submit. So if I try and create a new one, it says I can't, because I can only create one open assignment at a time. What Screencastify Submit allows you to do is to create an assignment for pupils to complete using their own Screencastify. So if you wanted pupils, for example, to record a presentation while they were talking over some slides on their Chromebook, you could use this to do that. You could also use it for analysis or critique if you shared a passage of a play digitally or anything else that you wanted pupils to discuss. And it allows you to have an easily managed way of getting pupils to submit a video response to an assignment rather than necessarily having to write things down. Whether that suits what you're doing or not is really up to you, but it's, I think, useful in certain circumstances. So just to show you how that works, I'm going to close this assignment so that it's no longer open, and that should hopefully let me create a new one. And you'll see that I can choose whether pupils are going to record screen and webcam, webcam only, or screen recording only. So if I only wanted them to record them talking about something on their screen, I would probably just select that, so I didn't inadvertently end up with a webcam recording of them or their house or whatever. And then if we go to next, give it a title, test assignment, give some instructions, which I'll not bother with, and then we can choose some settings here. So we can choose who's allowed to submit videos, and I would say anyone in my organization, and that ensures that only pupils in our school are able to record and turn videos in, and you'll see it automatically knows it's sterlingschools.net, that's our Google account. And you can also see video privacy. That allows you to choose whether pupils can just view their own video, can view all videos, which means they can view other students' videos, or couldn't view any videos. So you'd probably want to let them watch their own one, depending on what you're doing. If it was a presentation that was a revision task, and your intention was that pupils would share their work with their peers, you might change that to students can view all videos. And you can turn on email notifications. That will go to your Gmail account to let you know when they've been turned in. We go to the next button. You'll maybe get a wee help thing there. I'll just get rid of that for now. You'll see that it says the assignment is live. Share this link to start collecting videos. And you can either just copy that link and paste it into an assignment classroom, or you could just click the classroom icon at the side. And much like before, that will open up this menu where you can go to a particular classroom, choose what you want to do, click go, and you'll see that it creates that for you and pastes or adds the link in there. When pupils open it, it's not readily easy for me to show you this just now, but I did a wee trial run, signed in as a pupil. It's really quite straightforward. The pupil opens the assignment, clicks on the link. They will probably then be prompted to say whether they accept it, being able to record their screen and their microphone and so on, which they obviously have to do for it to work. And after they've done that, a fairly self-explanatory window pops up, just allowing them to start recording and to choose what they record. So they can choose what tab, what application. And when they're finished and they stop recording and save it, it's automatically all just collected together in one place for you. So that makes it much easier. And if you look at the assignment, I don't know if I can, I'll maybe just close this assignment and see if I can reopen this one. You'll see we've got submissions here, and that will all be in my Screencastify submit folder in my Google Drive, and they're all organized into a folder for that assignment. So in that case, I just did one response to a student, but for you, you would have all of your pupils' work in that one place. I haven't checked if in Google Classroom it automatically attaches it so that the videos come up in your Google Classroom grading view. I doubt it does, but it might. But in the meantime, it's certainly a simple and quick way of managing recording pupil responses for an assignment. So I think that's pretty much covered it. Fairly lengthy, but hopefully reasonably comprehensive. If there is anything that you feel that I've missed out or that you're unclear about, do feel free to let me know. And I'll be happy to come and give you a wee hand if you want to try anything out yourself. That's it.